You're ready, but am I?
All right.
Hold on a minute.
The 15th of July, 2006, I'm interviewing
Sharon Lett-Rucker.
at the Holiday Inn in Zanesville for the African American Presence in the Ohio River Valley Oral History Project. Could you spell your name and say your name again and spell it for us?
Sharon Lett-Rucker, SharonLettRucker.
Let me tell them to be quiet.
She's still probably out there clowning.
I thought we say, I don't know the door. All right. Sorry.
It's okay.
So Sharon, where were you born? And
I-
what was the date?
I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was born at home on Finney Street, which the house is no longer there. And the doctor, I was born on Easter Sunday morning. And the doctor would come to the house. Every time he came to the house, he would bring a bag. And I have older sisters. And my older sisters would think he had a baby in that bag. So they knew every time doctor came with that bag, he was bringing a baby. So they used to think, oh no, not another baby, because there's 7 of us. And they would say, oh no, not a baby. But now they call me an Easter bunny. I'm their Easter bunny, because I was born on Easter Sunday.
That's a important day in my family too. Can you tell me your parents' names and then all the children that were in your family and the order that you were born in?
Okay. My mother's name is Belinda Eureka Sleet Lett. And my father's name is Arnold David Lett. And my mother was born in Remus, Michigan, and my father was born in Mecosta, Michigan. And I have 6 sisters and 1 brother. The brother is the oldest. He was born in Mecosta, Michigan. And his name is Arnold William Lett. And I have my next sister. She was born in Grand Rapids. Her name is Merle Evelyn Roberta. And my next sister, her name is Doris Jean Nelson. And then the next child is Marjorie Joan Lett Skaliski. And then my mother miscarried 2 boys in between there. So there's 7 years between the sister older than me and myself. And then I came in 1943. Like I said, Easter Sunday morning, I was a nice big gift for him. And then, of course, my younger sister, Ada Lett Todd, came, and she's the baby. So it was 7 children and 2 miscarriages.
What was it like with all those girls in the house?
You know, it was really fun because we were the younger ones. There was 1 under me, and then, of course, 5 above me. And having the older sisters, they taught you things like dancing. We used to dance all the time, and they did things for us. If we didn't have money to do something or go someplace, they would pitch in and help us. Were things they couldn't afford to do. When they were coming up, they would help us to do, like going to proms or going to homecomings or whatever we had to go to, they would help us. Because my father worked at a foundry, so he didn't really make a whole lot of money. My mother cleaned houses. She cleaned houses for doctors.
Can you tell me about their story? How did they meet, or where did they grow up?
They both grew up in Mecosta and Remus. And I think they went to school together, to what is called Little River School. And that's up in Mecosta, Michigan, School Section Lake. And I don't know, they were very young, because I think my mother was 15 when she got married. And I can't remember how old my father was. But anyway, they were young when they got married. And evidently, they were very much in love because we could see it in our home. You know, they didn't divorce. One didn't go one way and the other go another way. They always did things together. And I remember my dad coming home every Friday and laying his check on the table, and my mother would give him what she wanted him to have. So, you know, they did have a good marriage. They had their arguments, don't get me wrong. They had their arguments, but they had like a good marriage. So we always felt like we had a good family.
What were some pieces of advice that your mother gave you and your father gave you that you just really carry with you?
My mother's advice was, especially about marriage, she said, make sure the person that you meet, that you really love them. Have fun while you're young. Because once you get older and get married, then, you know, that time is over. You have a family. You have to take care of them. You have a husband. You have to take care of him. And she always told us to be honest. And she always taught us religion. You know, we had to go to church every Sunday night. Anything went on in church, we had to go. And that, I carried that over because I go to church, to everything they have, and then I sing in the choir too, and usher on the usher board. So my father, with him, he always worked. He'd never miss a day. And it seemed like he worked so hard for the little bit of money he had. I always said, when I get older, I'm going to get a job so that I can help him out. But, you know, he died young, so we weren't able to do it, but we were able to take care of my mother. She had everything she wanted before she died. So I think those are the things, like jobs and so forth. Even though a job might be hard, or you felt you couldn't take it, you still should stick with it. You know, do your best. Then if you feel you can't take it and you have to give it up to get something else, but you need to try your best to do what you could at the time, because, you know, at that time jobs were hard to find. And I started out a little rinky factory job, and it was so hot I couldn't handle it. But my dad worked in a factory, so he advised me different things to do for the heat, which helped because I used to get heat cramps. And he told me what to do for that, and he said, try it. Excuse me, I did try it, and it worked out.
How old were you when you started working? Where was that?
When I started working, I was 19. I babysat before that. But when we babysit, we would try to give our parents money, but they wouldn't take it. The only way you could give them some is if you bought them something. Because of that, they wouldn't take money from you. So I started working in a factory at 19. But I was married. I had just got married. And I was married for 27 years when I lost my husband. So I've been widowed for 17 now. No, I just haven't gotten married again. It's funny because my mother never did either. So I think probably I'll be like her, as far as I can see.
What was your husband's name?
His name was, believe it or not, Elmer Eugene Rucker. And he was from Tennessee, Athens, Tennessee. But he moved up to Michigan when he was like about 7 years old. And we met in high school, grade school, I should say. And then in high school, and I think we started going together in the 9th grade, I think it was. And we went all the way through high school. So he was my childhood sweetheart when we got married. So it was like a little romantic story when they had his funeral, because it was like, you know, we were married for so many years, and we met in high school, and he used to pick at me, he did. I used to have long braids, and he would dip my braids in the inkwell. Then I would have to get my braids cut off because you couldn't get the ink out. So I'd have to go home, and every time I go home, my mother would say, all right, who messed with your hair this time? And I'd say, this guy in school, he keeps putting my hair in the inkwell. Well, I'm going to report it to the teacher if he keeps it up. And she'd have to cut my hair off where he stuck it in there, but he'd always sit right behind me. He'd always take my hair and stick it. You know, we used to have these little inkwells in our desk. He'd always stick my hair in the inkwell. So I'd always have to cut my hair off. Then, when we got married, he didn't want me to cut my hair at all. He wanted it to be long as I could get it. And when he died, I cut it off. I wear it short now.
And what did he die of?
He had lung cancer. I had to take care of him, take him to his appointments, and then he decided he didn't want to go to chemo anymore. So I was working, and I took care of him. And then I had hospice come in, and they helped me, you know, where they would be with him when I wasn't home. And then when I got there at night, they would have given him most of his medicine and so forth, but I had to bathe him, clean him up, and do all that. But you know, when you care about somebody, that doesn't bother you, you know. So.
Did you have any children?
I have 2 children. I have a boy and a girl.
And what are their names and ages?
The oldest one's name is Ronald Eugene. He's 41. And my daughter, no, he's 40. My daughter's name is Regina Renee, and she's 37.
Are they married? Do you have any grandchildren?
I have 9 grandchildren. And I have 4 great-grandchildren. I have quite a few.
Do they all live in the area around the grandparents?
No, that's the rough part. My son lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and my daughter lives in Remus, Michigan, which is not that far away. So I see her quite often, and I'm supposed to go to my son's next month and spend a week and then come back. I have to fly, and I'm not that nuts about flying right now. So I don't know if I want to or not, but I'll go. I'll go down there.
So you still have so many family members around in that area. What was it like growing up around family and traveling to
Acosta and Remus?
Yeah.
Well, every Saturday, my father would get us up in the summertime, and he would get us up by his country music that he would turn on because he listened to country music. And he would wake us up like 5 o'clock in the morning to get us up and get us ready to go. And we would go up to Acosta, and my father had a sister there, and my grandmother had died. I really never got to really meet any grandparents on that side. But on my mother's side, I did get to meet my grandmother and my grandfather. But we used to go up there, and I'd stay with my grandmother, or I'd stay with my father's sister and all my cousins and so forth that were up there. It was really nice because when we'd go up there, they would have dances and parties, and, you know, we'd go to them. But the worst part about it was you'd go out with somebody, and then you come home and you tell your parents, tell my mother about it. I said, oh, I went to the drive-in with such and such a person. And she looked at me and say, who? And I say, you know, the person's name. That's your cousin. No. She said, that's your cousin. You can't, you know, you can't date. And we kept hearing this all the time when we were younger, you know. And then they started bringing these books out with all the names. See, we didn't know about the people down here. Started bringing all these books out with these names in them. And we started looking at the names and putting them together and checking. And one day, my sister and I were sitting there, and I told her, I said, you know what? She said, what? I said, it's kind of strange. All these people come right back into the same line. And she said, I wouldn't doubt it if they're related and they're marrying each other. You know, just a thought we had. Well, come to find out, it was the truth. They did marry each other, and they did keep it in the family. So we were right on track, but when we asked my mother about it, she didn't want to hear it. She did not want to hear it, so they didn't tell us anything about that. And they told us we had relatives in Ohio, but they never told us about the people in Ohio. So what we found out now, we have really dug up and listened to, well, read different books and so forth on it. And that's how we mostly found out about it. But growing up it was great. We really had, I mean, it might sound like fantasy, but you know, we really had a good childhood. We did not have a lot of stuff. I can remember Christmas. There wouldn't be a lot under the tree, but we each would have something under that tree. And we even had Santa Claus and come and come and visit us a couple of times. So, you know, it was like we didn't have much, but we were happy.
What was the story that you learned about the Lett family when you, or either through those travels or a family member and who told you? What were some of the first stories that you learned about your family beyond just your immediate family growing up?
I was young when I first learned about the Lett family because we were having reunions up north. We have what is called the Old Settlers Reunion. So they used to take us to that from the time we were born up, and we still have it. Third week of August, we have it. So from then, that's when we started finding out about family. But sometimes you wouldn't know some of the people were related. And then when you check it out, you would be related to that person 3 different ways. So a lot of the families come together. And that's really how I first started finding out about it, was these reunions.
What would be some things why you might not think you're related, or just family names you hadn't heard of? Or?
Well, down here there's a few names that we really haven't heard of. There's like maybe 4 or 5 names that we really didn't know about. We hadn't heard about it, nobody said anything about it, but there are a couple of names in our Old Settlers book that we didn't know who they were. And then some of the people down here, a lot of them, we didn't know them when we came down here. So we had to learn people and get to know people. Now we've been coming down here, this is our 4th year. And each year we meet more and more family. And we love them more and more because they're happy to see us and we're happy to see them. And it's just like when we come down here, we don't really want to go back home because we just get into it, and it's like so much love. And it just feels really good because, you know, you meet them, you know they're glad to see you, you're glad to see them, and you can just feel the love. You know, we hug each other. It's nice, it's really nice to have a big family, which we thought the only family we had was up there. And that was big enough, you know. But then we come down here, and it's an extended family. So it's like you take these people and put it with the people up there, you have a crowd. You wouldn't be able to hold them here.
Is there something you learned about your family this time that you didn't know that really stood out for you this year, this reunion?
This year?
Yeah.
Well, this year, no, I think what I found out would have been in 2003 when I came. And that was that we really did have family down here, and they looked just like us. You know, some of us are light, some of us are dark, some don't even look like they're black, but they are. And that used to really, you know, when I was growing up, that used to really, people would look at me and say, you can't be black, you're just as light as I am. In fact, you're lighter. I said, well, I can't help it. That's what my birth certificate says. So that's the way it goes. But that's what really got me, was to see more people, and when you look at them, you can see family resemblance. So you know it's your family. And I think that first year, 2003, it just like tripped me out. I couldn't get over looking at the books. I couldn't get over talking to the people. And I couldn't get over going through my pictures, because I take pictures every year. I'm on the 3rd camera right now. And I just couldn't get over taking pictures of, all these people. And we even call them during the year, to tell them, hey, how you doing? Like maybe in November or December. And last year, the thing that really excited me about the reunion was that Sheila Ray Charles, which is Ray Charles' daughter, was our relative. And she was at the reunion last year. And she sang for us. And she gave us tapes, and she gave us shirts with her picture on it and signed them to my cousin. And that was an outstanding thing last year.
And how is she connected to the family?
Her mother is a Lett. So, she's, Ray Charles wasn't married to her mother, but she's one of the children. And she came last year and sang, and she talked to all of us. She hugged us. We took pictures. It's like I said, just like the rest of the family. It's just one, like the shirt says, one big family.
And what's her mother's name, do you know?
No, I don't know her mother's name right off. If I'd have brought my book in here, it's probably in this book. Do you want me to look it up?
Sure.
When she came last year, it was like, we couldn't believe it, because they put it on a computer that she was going to be there. Sandra Jean Betts. That was her mother's name. And Ray Charles. That was her father. So that was very interesting to find that out. And the other famous relative we have is Della Reese, her husband. He's a Lett. I don't know how he fits in, but he's a Lett too. And that's all I know about that. I just know he's a Lett and she married him. But every year we find out someone fits right into the family, because the family moved around so much. Like they're in California. My sister used to live in Puerto Rico. She was married to a Puerto Rican. She lived in Puerto Rico. And he died, so now she's here and she stays with me. So.
What do you think is the importance of an extended family? There's some people that maybe don't feel like they even have an extended family. Maybe their family's not as connected as you are to your extended family. What's the importance of knowing those people that maybe it's a second or third cousin, but you're connected to them? You share history, and what's that for you?
To me, it says a loving family, because if we can trace our background all the way back 6 generations, or really 7 generations, to our great grandmother and grandfather, and how they began and how they started, where they came from, I think that is great. And I think an extended family is you always have someone you can turn to. If you need something, a family is always there to help and, help you out. If you ask them, they're always there to help you. And I think that's the importance of having a big extended family, like coming down here. If they need something, we all donate money and help in any way that we can. And I think it's just good to have it. To me, it's like every time I turn a corner up in Michigan, I'm running into somebody who's a relative. And then I used to think they're just saying they're relatives, but they're really relatives. So, it just makes it nice, because you feel like you got such a big family. And you really should know the family, and I think reunions are good, because if you don't have reunions, and people don't know who they are or who their family is, then they're going to do the same thing again, and they're going to marry into the family again. Because there's so many of us, you could easily run out there and run into a cousin and marry them.
What's something, have you ever learned anything about the family, the Lett settlement? Do you think had something to do with Underground Railroad, or something about the family's connection to the Underground Railroad? Has that ever been a part of something you found out about the family?
I just found that out.
Stories?
I just found it out when I came here. I never knew it before. When I was younger, I thought Underground Railroad meant a railroad that ran underground. I did. That's what I thought an Underground Railroad was. They didn't teach us, about it in school. And my great uncle, Benjamin Banneker, I never heard of him. I never heard of him until I came down here. And then I'm like, Benjamin Banneker, who is that? Then when I go back up and I start reading and asking questions and so forth, going to the library to find out about him, I find out that who he is and what he did. And I'm like, well, how come we never learned about this in school? But they really never had Black history like they do now. So now I see his face everywhere. Everywhere I go, it's on a calendar. It's the kids come home from school, they have to study about him. And when my niece, my granddaughter, came home and said she had to do a paper on him, I said, Benjamin Banneker? She said, yeah. I said, what do you want to know? And she said, you know, Grandma? I said, yeah. I said, that's your great uncle. And she's like, it is? So I had to sit down and talk to her and tell her. And then I took my other granddaughter and talked to her, and I talked to all my grandsons together. But, I wanted them to know. And of course, I bought a book that has all the information in it. And that book, I could go back in that book and revert to it and show them just how they come into the family.
What's the name of that book, and was it someone in the family that wrote it? Or?
Glenn Barnett wrote it. And it starts with Molly and Banneker. And then it comes all the way through to, the modern day. He's supposed to upgrade it, but he wasn't here this year, so I don't know if he did or not.
So in Michigan and Grand Rapids, a lot of people are familiar with Benjamin Banneker?
It's just getting to the point where it's starting to show up more.
What kinds of stories are saying about it? Or what are they sharing?
Mostly about him being an astronomer. How do you say it? Astronomer. And about him helping with them design the White House. And he took a clock apart and put the clock back together. So he was showing that he was, intelligent about learning things, and he liked to work with his hands and do things. I think he even worked with bees too, doing beehives or something.
What do you think can you talk about that experience of growing up and not getting an African American history in school, and what is that like, and why are these stories that we need to pass on and move from oral to kind of a written history so that?
Well, to me, it's like I didn't learn about the things that I should have. And the only thing I can remember in Black history was who created made the cotton machine. That's the only one I can remember. All the other ones are inventors that you hear about every day. But that's the only Black one that I ever for George Washington Carver. But other than that, that's the only Black history, and I think that with my kids, they learned more Black history than what I did. And with theirs, they're learning more, than what they did. So they're starting to put a little bit more into the schools where they're teaching more, and I think it's important because I think everybody should know their heritage. I think, if I go up to somebody and I tell them, well, I'm Negro, I'm African American, and they look at me and say, how? Well, see, I can tell them how. And I can go all the way back and dig it out. If they don't believe me, I can show them the paperwork of where this happened. My mother's name, grandmother, I can bring it all the way down to me. In fact, I can take it all the way down to my kids and 2 of my grandkids because they're in that book. And I think that is great because a lot of people do look at you and want to know how. So, you tell them. I mean, my mother was kind of brown skinned, but my father had blonde hair, and he was very fair skinned. But that's the way most of his people looked, fair skinned. So then when we come here, that's what we look like. I mean, you get mistaken a lot of times. I go in and get my hair done. I hear a lot of things while I'm in the beauty shop, but they don't know what I am when I'm in there. So I'm just in there getting my hair done. They're talking about things, and I hear what they're saying. So, it lets me know a lot of things. It'll let me know how different people feel, how they think. It lets you know a lot of things.
Did you have to change the date? Oh, perfect.
No, I'm just laying there.
I got worried you were changing the date. There's something like
She's just talking about beauty shop.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what I was asking you to connect. What do you think is kind of, what's something you think people outside of your family that something about your family history that you think is really something that really needs to be shared, something that just kind of contributes? There was a poster. There was a poster in the hall that said, "It's not African American history; it's American history."
Yeah.
And kind of, do you feel that way? And
Yes.
why, I guess.
Yes, I feel that way, and for the simple reason that when our family left Africa, when they brought them over here, okay, we have the African heritage, but we also have the American heritage. We're here in America, and I think that should be a part of what we are too. And people outside of the family, they may not understand us, but I think that we are so many, we're like a bouquet. You know how you make a bouquet up and you have all these different beautiful flowers? Okay, we're like a bouquet. We have all different flowers, but one big bouquet, which is one big family, but all these different colors of flowers. So that's the way I describe our family. I say we are like a bouquet, like a rainbow. We're of all different colors. I said, but we're all the same. We all have the same blood that runs through us. I said, so we are like a bouquet of flowers. That's the way I describe it, and hope that people understand that we are Americans.
It seems like people are getting a little bit more idea about the African Americans, people of African Americans that have a wider spectrum of the way that we look than in previous years, even though this is something throughout history. You can see people had different appearances, and we really varied in terms of appearance. But I sometimes feel like it's important to give people that insight into seeing people are so diverse, and we do look this way. We do look. Is that something you've kind of felt throughout your life, that when you've been questioned about your appearance or challenged, that what was that like experience for you, and why do you think it's important for people to know that you're African American?
Well, when I was growing up and going to school, I used to get in a lot of fights because they would call me names because of my color.
What would they call you?
They call me a cracker. They call me Patty. They'd call me Whitey. And some of them would even call me, what was that other name? Anyway, saying that I was white, but I wanted to be black. And they'd call me names, and then, it would be hard to get along with some of them because they didn't like you because of your color and because of what you were. But mostly that was in grade school. After I got out of grade school and got into high school, it was a lot better because I had established friends and I had got into different groups and different clubs. And at that time, after I got so far up in school, going to the same schools in the same district, then I knew all the people. So all the people knew where I was. It wasn't important for them to know that I was black, but the ideal was that, you know, I think they should know it. And because otherwise I go to, like I said, I go to beauty shops, they're doing my hair, and they're talking about things, and I don't say anything. I just stay quiet, because it's not that I'm ashamed of my heritage, but I don't want to embarrass them. And I think they would be very embarrassed if I said something. So I just do my hair. My hairdresser now that does my hair, he knows what I am, so that part doesn't bother me. But I did have a lot of trouble in school, in grade school. And I used to get run home until I got tired of running. And I had to stop and fight. Then, you know, you don't have any choice, so you do it. But I was in a lot of clubs, and I'd go to roller skating rinks, I'd go to dances, Bop Hop on TV, which was like a Soul Train thing. And I'd go to dances, and I'd go to, you know, it would be okay. It was only in the grade school where I had the problems.
What was the diversity like in your grade school? What was the...
It was like a mixed people. But I mean, I had cousins I was going to school with too, and they were older than me. So when somebody would jump on me, you know, they would come to my rescue, which, you know, we stick together. So if I'm at school and somebody's messing with me or bothering me or bullying me, I always had cousins around that were older than me that would help me.
These first cousins and these kids, were they their names?
The ones that I went to school were like second cousins. My first cousins lived, I have on one side of the family, my mother has a brother, and he has 7 kids. And then she's got 2 brothers. She lost one brother. He died. I can't remember what was wrong with him, but he did die. One brother had 7 children. The other brother had 16 children, no twins. And these were first cousins that I had, but they were all, the ones with the 16, they were all younger. And the ones on the other side were older, and we all got along good. And then on my father's side, he only had one sister. And she had, I believe, 5 kids. She had a set of twins, and one of the twins died. Well, all of her kids right now, on my father's side, all of her children, which would be my first cousins, they're all dead. So the only thing that is left are their children. And it's really strange because all of them died. Heart attacks, stomach, I think my grandmother had stomach cancer. But most of them died. So, but the cousins on the other side, they were around our same age, so we kind of hung with them. But we had so many cousins. It's like those 16. We didn't even know what some of them looked like. So many. We didn't even know their names, you know. I mean, how do you go to, when I asked her, we were putting a book together, and I asked her, I said, could you give me the kids' names? She said, I'm going to have to give you give me to one of the daughters. And she'd have to, I don't even think she could remember all those names. So she gave me to the daughter. The daughter gave me all the names.
That's a great
16 children, wow. And she had miscarriages. So I think altogether she would have had 20 kids, if not more. She had a lot of children. Not me. I had 2.
What did you first learn about slavery and that experience, and where did you first learn about that?
Slavery I heard about when I was younger, but really not too much. Then my grandfather came around, which is my mother's father. His father was a slave down in Kentucky. I don't know if you've heard the Margaret Garner story or whatever, Well, they were all down in that area. And my great-great-grandfather, which would be my mother's grandfather, he had to run, and he came north. And he would sit down, and he would tell stories about things that happened to him. But I was really, really young, so I can't really remember the stories too well. But I know he used to tell about how they had to hide, and people would hide him away and get him out of the territory and get him away. Now, they were from Kentucky, and they went, I think they went as far as Canada. He went as far as Canada, then came back down into Michigan. But they were slaves. So that's one part I heard about slavery. And then when I heard about the rest of slavery was after when I came down here for the first reunion and read well, no, I can't say then. When they did the Old Settlers book up north, then I heard about slavery. And that book came out in 80. I think it came out in 1982. So I heard about a lot of things then that I didn't know before. But in school, we didn't really learn that much about slavery. You know, like I said, they might have one day or something or a couple days where you do what at that time they called Negro slavery. And you do a little bit on that, but we didn't really know that much. And at the time, I didn't know I was a part of it, you know. So.
What's your response? You know, nowadays it seems like people say, oh, that wasn't that long ago, you know, we're beyond that, and it's almost as if it's so many generations ago, and you can look in your family and say, it's not that many generations ago. What do you, and being able to hear, even as young as you were, stories from a relative who actually experienced slavery, do you have a response to that question of, oh, it was so long ago, why do we need to still hear about it?
My response to that question would be because it's an important part of your life. It's something that happened. Your ancestors went through it, and a lot of things they did for us who were coming along sooner or later. And I think it's important for us to know about, I think it's important for anyone to know about their heritage. I mean, where they came from, you know, how things happened, where it happened, and, you know, how did you get the way you are, you know. If I didn't know, and I would see some of my relatives, I would wonder, well, why are they so dark complected and I'm light? Even some of my sisters are darker than I am. I think my sister and I are the lightest. The rest of them all have like a coloring and dark hair. And they fit in a little bit more than we do. But, you know, it never really bothered us, you know. I mean, when I started singing in the choir, the church I go to at the time when I started singing, which was 30 years ago, it wasn't too many Caucasian people in there. So when people would come in, and I was there at the door greeting or giving out books, one girl came back and told me, she said her mother had came to church. And she said, boy, your church is really changing. They even have a white girl at the door who passes out bulletins, you know. And they have a white girl who takes up the collections. And she said, white girl? And she said, yes. And she said, what does she look like? And she told her, she said, she's not white. She said, she just looks it. And to me, that was kind of funny because she really did think I was, you know. And here I am, the only one in the church. But now, maybe because this is what my pastor told me, maybe by people seeing me, it drew more of them into the church because now there's quite a few. So maybe I had a lot to do with that, you know. But whatever, I really think that congregations should be mixed. And there should be a lot of different types of people, you know. I don't think that one nationality should dominate any church. I think that it should be. We're mixed up, so there's no way we can afford to be prejudiced because we're all mixed up. So how can we go around and be prejudiced of anyone else? So when I first started going to that church, because I had went to another one when I was younger, and I switched. And when I first started going there, it was like, they're staring at me. You know, that's the way I felt. I felt very paranoid. And that's the first time I really ever felt paranoid. And I felt this. And then when they asked me to lead a song, I'm like, no. He said, when God calls upon you to do something, you're supposed to do it. I'm like, oh, man, I got to get in front of all these people because it's a big church. I got to get in front of all these people and sing. But God was willing. I did it. And it worked out really good. They responded to me and everything. So, you know, I think that's the way it should be. I think people should get along. And I think if there was more love in this world, there would be less problems. And I do believe, I'm very religious. I believe that religion should be in the school. Like when they took it out, they took a lot of things to do with religion out of school. When they took religion out, you notice they started having a lot of things happening. The shootings, teachers getting shot, kids getting shot. All this started happening after they took God out. So I'm a very strong believer that Christianity, it is a thing where we're all together. Because when we die, we're all going to go up there together. What are we going to say? I'm not going to be here because she's here? We're not. So I believe that everything should be integrated, you know, and not segregated. But that's my belief. But I'm from a mixed up family, you know. So what can I say? But that's what I truly believe. But that's what they should do.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, good. Yeah.
I'm not as comical as my sister.